Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. With me today is Jennifer Smith of JLS Designs in Middle Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. Jennifer began her business almost 20 years ago, focused on window coverings, and she now offers design services to her clients as well. Jennifer has a vast portfolio of clients. She has completed design projects for Fortune 500 executives, some of the country's most talented music and athletic industry professionals, and hundreds of families to meet their home design and decor needs. Her expertise and attention to detail has helped clients renting one-bedroom apartments and owners of multi-million-dollar estates. Her work has transformed area homes, schools, and office suites across the region. She is an active member of the Window Covering Association of America, where she now serves on their board of directors. She is also an active member of the Williamson County Business Chamber, Professional Drapery Workrooms of Middle Tennessee, Drapery and Design Network, and America's Window Covering Buying Network. She also has a monthly design column featured on the online daily news resource for all things stylish in your life, Style Homepage. Jennifer and I met through Facebook first, and then we met in real life back in 2017 at a pricing course that I was teaching in South Carolina. Not long after that, Jennifer and I started working together to help her scale and move the business forward. She has done amazing things and seen some really great results. And then I hosted a retreat back in the December of 18 timeframe, and Jennifer came and she shared with the group her aha moment. She needed a board of directors. She has been on a 9-month journey to fill the seats at her table. Listen in as we discuss why it's important to find your tribe, to find your board of directors, whether it's for your business or your personal life. Having people that will support you, speak hard truth to you, guide you, and just be there is paramount to your success. I have filled my board, and now you can too. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Michelle, thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. I am super excited to talk to you about the topic of creating your own kind of board of directors for your company. I know that's one of the main topics we're going to talk about today, but I just want to celebrate with you just how great you're doing in your business.
Well, thank you. Thank you to you.
Oh, well, no, you've done a lot of the hard work. It is so fun to watch a business, shift a little, change direction a little, or even just to look for ways to increase where they are with what they're doing, and then to own every bit of it. One of the, in all transparency, you are a client of mine, but what is so fun is working with people who set a goal, even if they don't know what it is when they come in, they set a goal, and then they really put the resources towards achieving that goal. And, and sometimes we can put every resource towards achieving a goal and it still doesn't happen. I've done that, right? But when you actually see it happen, it really is a lot of fun. So I just want to give you a high five and a congrats on that. And also congratulations, you have just been added to the board of directors, speaking of board of directors, for the National Window Covering Association of America, the WCAA. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. I'm super excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, that's going to get you busy, and even more so than what you already are. So let's jump in a little bit, Jennifer, and I want you to just tell everybody, tell us a little bit of what you do, what your business offers right now, and then we'll jump into the topic and how it relates to our profitability as we go forward. Just tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. I've been in business, 20 years. That's crazy. Is that right? 20 years now. And in the beginning, I started out just focusing on window coverings, and that's been my bread and butter for the last 16 to 17 years. It's been within the last year or two, I started taking on more of a design side of the business and doing remodels and purchasing personal shopping with clients. I wouldn't say I was buying wholesale at the time, but just doing personal shopping with my local resources. With your help and guidance, I made a little bit of a shift in my business model to keep the window coverings as my bread and butter, but to expand and offer full service design. And it's been a great experience, still a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm excited about this opportunity and to see where it takes me.
And part of the shift and part of it was because people were already asking you to do that anyway. And we know that to have to buy everything retail with the client is not the most profitable way to do it. So, if you were going to already be in the house and already doing the work on the side, I just wanted you to make more money while you were doing it, right?
That's right. Your passion for profit honed in.
That's right. That's right. If we're going to be doing it, we got to make money at it.
I had to increase my profit margins.
That's right. That's right. And let's be honest, shifting your business even just a little takes some courage, right? Have you had some areas where you were fearful of making the shift?
I think it was a natural shift. The biggest part is how to get the other side of the business, to get your social media to fall in line, getting your website to fall in line. What is going to be my focus? What do I want my clients to know? What is my story? And that, every time we have talked or coached or, we've tried to hone in and make sure my goals are still driving back to that story. And I think I'm just now arriving at what that story and that purpose is. And I'm really excited about it. I'm working on my website right now to do a refresh. I've sourced out my social media and working on trying to hone that to get that come in line and still tell that story that I want to share.
I think that's a good point, Jennifer, because my business is not the same. I'm like you. I was counting up the years. Did you start your business in 99 or 2000?
2000.
Yeah, so I did too. So this is our 20th year.
Yeah, crazy.
Right? I know, it is crazy. I'm the same way. I keep thinking, it's 19, but this is in the 20th year. Like in January, I will be starting my 21st year of business. Same as you. Anyway, even from there, my business is not the same. And even when I started the Scarlet Thread consulting portion of my business is not the same. And so really making sure as we add new products and services and offerings that we do continue to tell the story that we want the reader to read, right? When they see our website and our social media. Awesome point. And it's not just enough to say, now I offer ABC or XYZ. It is all that back end work, the back office work to make it happen. The copy, the website updates, the social media, all those things. That to me is more overwhelming sometimes than just going, hey, I'd like to sell you a lamp. That's the easy part, right? It's all of the other. But I applaud you for knowing that and looking at all those things. And it does take time. Look, the bigger our businesses get, the slower the turn.
Well, in the impatience in me and the being a perfectionist in me, I want it done and I want it all done now. And so me,
and done well.
So for me, it's been a learning in patience and strategy and, breaking down those goals and those to-do lists and doing them in a method and a strategy as you can do it. But and still continue your daily work. And that is super hard.
It is hard. I've also found when I started outsourcing that when I was the one doing it, if I want it done, I can stop, turn, do it right now and get it done. But when I outsource it and it goes on somebody else's plate, it has to go into their regular schedule of when it's going to get done. So things that I used to be able to turn around quickly, I can't turn around quickly anymore. And so it just has to be built into my processes for a little bit of a slower turn. But I will say by handing those things off, it does allow me to do other things. So yes, the time might take a little bit longer, but I would say in the end, it's usually done better than if I were to sit down and do it all by myself and churn it out. And
Right.
so it is, it's a shift in the way you think. It's a shift in calendaring to be done and working with other people. But ultimately, I think that it is a really great deal. So the topic that we want to talk about today is about why it's important to have almost like a personal board of directors, to have these people that are super important to us and that speak into our life and into our business, that can shoulder some of what we're doing or help us look at it differently. I remember you first mentioning this, and we talked about it a little bit at the, was it this past year? Was it last year when I think it was. We had I offered a business retreat for some of my clients, and we were off at a home down on the coast, and we were talking about it. And I had made a comment that we are a sum of the top 5 people that we spend time with. And we were talking about who are the people that we spend the most time with, and how do they impact the way we think and the way we see things. And you said, you know what? I just heard about this personal board. Tell us a little bit about what you said that day, because we all shifted and started talking about that.
Well, and I think you can have kind of 2 different boards, one for personal and one for business, or you can mesh them together. I think the less than 5, I think 5 people would be the max of seats at your table. But the woman I heard it from, I was at the chamber meeting. They have a women's group that meets, I think we've gone to once a quarter, but we have a guest speaker every month, and she's a wonderful lady. And just that day, it just definitely spoke to me. And she said, whomever you want it to be. It could be a nutritionist. It could be a personal trainer. It could be your pastor. It could be your best girlfriend or guy friend, whomever that might be. And whomever you bring on board is got to hold you accountable and has to speak the truth to you. They can't sugarcoat it. They can't say, oh, I'm sorry you made a mistake. Don't do it again. Or why did you do that? That was really crazy. I would have done that. I would have stopped you had you spoken with me. It's that friend that's going to hold you accountable and hold your feet to the fire and be, at times probably more honest than you would like them to be. But in the end, it was what you needed to hear. And how you fill those seats are completely up to you. So I took it to heart and applied it to my business. I knew I needed to make some changes. I knew I needed to get better at keeping my finances. I was already using QuickBooks, but I was commingling my business and my personal and needed help pulling that out. I'm a designer and I love creative things for a reason. Accounting just stresses me out, as it does most people. So I looked to find someone who was going to help me do that and take some of that stress off of me, but also in the process, have it be a learning experience. At that point, Michelle, you dropped into my board. I needed someone to help guide me how to answer some of the questions about growth. I had never made a business plan. I had never made a budget. I had not talked about what my goals for the future was. I had not looked at my profit margin. There were a lot of things that I was doing right, but on the flip side of that, there were a lot of things I was not doing right. And once that was made aware to me, I was on board. I was ready. If you gave me a list or told me what I needed to do, I was on it. So your personal board or your business board, whomever it might be. I mean, a lot of us are single owners. We're doing it all. And you just can't do it in this day and age. You can't do it all. I added a bookkeeper to help me just reconcile my accounts once a month. That was the least favorite thing that it was like pulling my toenails out with tweezers. There was no way
Oh my gosh, that's so horrible. And that's my favorite thing to do. I cannot wait for the bank statement to come into my email to say it's ready. And I'm such a nerd. I'm jumping into the bank account like, oh, look at you reconciled to the penny every time.
I've since come to love it because I'll do my personal side and she does my business side. But if you're practicing profit first, you have multiple accounts. So it could take you an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Well, it was worth it to me to pay somebody, I don't know, $25 an hour so that I could be off doing something else that I really, truly enjoyed. But I will tell you, from the personal side of doing my books, it does bring me joy to hit all the little check marks and then see a zero at the end and say, done.
I know. And I'll be honest, for my profit, of course, everybody knows I'm profit first. I would say of my 5 accounts, 4 of my accounts, I could probably reconcile them within 4 minutes total, 5 minutes total. Because it's like an in and an out and we're done. And the one that takes the longest is your operating expense account. And so that can be different for each person, but I probably can do balance all of my accounts, including my credit card, within 30 minutes. But of course, I love it and I stay on top of it. And mine's not as convoluted as a designer's would be. And that is going to take a lot longer, especially if you start doing costing. But I want to go back and ask you this question. So you're sitting at this chamber meeting and this businesswoman says, you need to have a board. And it's funny, I tell people all the time, they're like, Michelle, what do you really do? I said, I'm kind of like your built-in board of directors. So it's been funny. I've called myself that for 6 years because, like you said, Jennifer, many of us are in this by ourselves. And there's a Bible verse that says iron sharpens iron. So like a piece of iron can't sharpen itself. The only way it can be sharpened is to be hit against another piece of iron. And that hitting causes tension and friction. And that's what causes a sharpening. And I love the imagery of that iron sharpening iron. And I think that's what we do when we're on the board or we're in some type of position like that. We're all trying to sharpen our skills and our abilities and our talents to be even better and better and better. And we can't do it just sitting there like a piece of iron by ourselves. We've got to have a tension and a hit against something, that friction to cause it. And how did you feel, though, that day when she said, I know it impacted you because I think you would listen to her right before you came to our week-long business retreat. And you were like, okay, I've got a board and I've got some open seats. I need to really think about who's going to be on my board. So did it impact you even in that moment? Or did you like shut out everything else she said because it took over control? Or did you make a note and then just think, oh, I'll get around to it. I think it's a great idea. Like, how impactful was it when she's like,
I was the goober sitting there with my iPhone typing in my notes, what she was saying and what I could come back and reflect on, just in case I would miss something she said. I could go back and reread it. That day, it was a turning point for me. I was like, you know what? I got to get serious. This is how I'm going to do it. I don't have all the answers. I think one of your favorite sayings is, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
I needed people in my life that, number one, challenged me, number two, set me straight and filled the gap in the education that I didn't know or my abilities that I didn't know, but also would take something off my plate to allow me to be the person that I want to be. I just added an accountant, thank you, that acts like my CFO. That is going to take a look at my numbers, that is going to be holding me accountable. I don't want to get to the end of the tax year or right before taxes are due and look up and go, oh gosh, I owe another $20,000, which is what happened to me last year.
Right.
And instantly that moment I said, I can self-correct. I know how to make this happen.
I think that's so important too. Like, for example, I coach people, we do profit first. I can tell you how to save, but there is something that we have to have an accountant, right? I am not trying to replace anybody's accountant. If anything, I'm going to make sure you have a great accountant. But that accounting person is actually looking at every detail of your personal and your business. and they're looking at what's right for you, right? The accountants that I work with, I have multiples. They literally help you look at everything, like not just what is the business doing, but then how does it fit into the life of that client? Because some are married, some are not. There's so many things that go into this tax prep. And having that person to guide you is huge. I mean, I have an accountant that does the same thing, right? The same one that you have. And she reaches out to me and she watches these things. Even though I do this all day, every day, she reaches out and, hey, Michelle, have you thought about this? Or, she'll say, send me Joel's W-2, send me your P&L. And she's looking at everything together. That just to know somebody else is looking over my shoulder and that they're an expert in that and they know it is huge. So let's talk about, Jennifer, who you've chosen to give a seat at your table. So you've got your board of directors. It's almost like the Knights of the Round Table. You're the word of the round table.
Well, I mean, so what I've done at this point is basically filled my board with people that are going to support me in my business.
So what type of roles do they have? So you have a coach.
I have two,
right?
Actually.
That's
got
me.
A QuickBooks coach.
Good.
I have you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, awesome.
Love her.
I have my business coach in you. I have a bookkeeper, but more importantly, I think is Christy's role as my CFO.
CFO accountant, yeah.
And then from there, I think this has been part of my learning curve and the stress to my patients is I didn't have, what I wanted to do was fill it immediately and try to accomplish everything at once. And it's a process. I think during my current phase of life, I think those couple extra seats that I have open, I'm going to take some time to figure out who I'm going to put there. Like the book you suggested, Who's in Your Room. Sometimes you're going to fall and scrape your knees. They're going to pick you up, brush you off and say, girl, get back on that wagon, try again, or that bike, whatever it might be. And so I think these last couple of seats are where I filled the need in my business. And now I'm trying to be more thoughtful as to who I'm going to put in for my personal, to support me personally.
Okay. So I made a list the other day of all the people that are currently on my team. And I have 11 people that I'm going back and forth with, for the most part, supporting me in my business. And so I'll tell you some of the positions. I have one person who does my project management, my podcast support, service, assistant, that kind of thing. I have another person who does all of my automation and all of that support. I have my own business coach, which blows people away. But again, if I'm looking to iron to sharpen iron, I can't sharpen my own skills by myself. I have to have that other person. And so I have my own overall business coach who continually calls me on my own crap. And, she does to me what I do to other people. And I kind of feel like if I'm going to do this to other people, somebody should be doing it to me, right? If I really think it's that important, then I need to do it. And then I have a great new gal that's doing all my graphics. I have another junior coach in sales support. I have somebody who's doing my social media and website. I have a marketing strategist. I have a copywriter, an accountant, an attorney, a branding expert, and my financial wealth advisor. So now I wouldn't say all of them are on my board of directors, but I would say to start with, they're all on my team. And I did not build that team overnight. This is 6 years in the making of getting the right people in the right seats, doing the right thing, where we're all working together moving forward. It is a process. If I were to say, even on my personal board, if you will, who would be on that board? I'm talking about, oh my gosh, Colleen, who was on the podcast a couple episodes ago. She's my exercise therapist. She's the one that's helping me stay in the gym and to personal train because, running a company like this is a lot of work and it's a lot of stress. Just recently, I've hurt my foot. I've been at the podiatrist trying to figure out if it was broken or what's going on. I mean, she picked up that phone and called me and is checking on me and is already looking to change all of my exercises so I don't lose the gains I've had while I give my foot another 3 or 4 weeks to heal. She's just been amazing. That's the kind of people I want on my team, right? Who are investing in me, not just when it's going well, but when there's a difficulty, they're come alongside me and going, okay, we can't do that, but we can do this. Come on, keep going, keep going, keep going. So she is absolutely on my personal team. And I would even say to some degree, my business coach is on my personal team. Because as you know, it's very difficult to go to a business coach and not share some of your personal life and what's going on and what's happening, because it affects who we are in business. So, you can have these separate teams, but in some ways it's about supporting Jennifer. It's about supporting Michelle. It's, what does that need to be? I've got a couple of friends in the industry and outside of the industry, and man, they can be lovingly brutal, just like I can. Lovingly brutal, but I need that. We all need
I mean,
that.
how else are we going to grow? How else are we going to be challenged? And you know what? You are just as invested in me as I am in myself. And I think from a standpoint of finding those right people, you have to find whomever you put on your team that is going to support you in that level.
That's a good point, because I know that there are clients that I sometimes am supporting them to move forward when they don't even feel like moving forward. They're a little defeated, or they're in a season of struggle. And that's the way I felt when my, exercise therapist calls me and says, I know you're in a season of struggle. Let me help you. Because I was already thinking, well, that's done. Like, I can't work out for the next 4 weeks. And she came alongside me and said, no, let me support you when you don't even feel like you can support yourself in this. And I think that's important about who you choose to have a seat at your table as well, right? Like, I want somebody who's going to go, even when you give up, I'm going to stand here and hold you up. I think I've told you all the picture for my clients is I want you to imagine that you're standing here looking out at everything in front of you. And I'm standing behind you with my hands flat on your back. You can see me, but the listeners can't. I've got both my palms on your back, 1 foot back in a stance to hold you up. Because sometimes we have to have that other person to do that. When the waves crash, man, somebody's got to get us out of that water.
Who's your life
fast.
preserver?
Who's your life preserver here? And I wouldn't be where I am today without my business coach. I absolutely would not be here. I would not be here without my accountant. Would not be here. I wouldn't be here without even my Profit First group. I don't even have them on that list. But as a certified coach, I've got tons of people standing behind me there to work through situations that maybe I've not seen before, or complications or challenges that come up. Without the support team around me, I could not do what I do. And personally, Jennifer, you know this about me, but I have multiple autoimmune diseases. If I didn't have my naturopath and my endocrinologist and all my ologists over there, I call them all my ologists, my cardiologist, I got them all. The ologist. Without all of them, I wouldn't even be healthy enough to do what I do. I just couldn't do it. And so building that team is huge. What lessons have you learned from building your team? One, I think you shared was it didn't have to be done quickly. You immediately thought, let me fill the seats at the table. And then you thought, let me think about that. What was that journey? When did you realize I don't have to go fill every seat today, that this is going to be a process?
Just in living through it. I mean, I needed to be thoughtful about it. I couldn't make changing over and cleaning up my QuickBooks happen overnight. That was a process. I believe that took me about 3 months to clean up, and then about another 9 months just to get that data going, and being able to have that, the reporting the way I wanted it. I mean, that took time. And I think, obviously patience is not my best virtue, but I'm working on it. Then, I guess what I've learned along the way, two things, I guess, being patient and then just trusting the system, just trusting the process, I guess, is more like it. Just making that list, making the to-do, I don't know, the to-do list, but that kind of to-do list evolved a little bit over coaching with you because it became, what are my goals? What are my dreams? What do my finances look like? If I had not done what we have done over the last 2.5 years, I would have closed up shop and moved on. Truly, I would have shut down the business and said,
Well, that's what you were looking at when we started talking. You said, I've either got to make this work. I mean, it was working. This is funny. Ironic, maybe, right? You were accidentally doing really well in business.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, right.
Right. Because you didn't, I mean, at the time, and you know this, I mean, you've shared it already. You didn't really know and understand all the intricacies of the numbers. You know, you had somebody supporting, but maybe not at the level of support that you needed. And you were at a life point where you're like, I've got to either make this work in a bigger way, or I got to go work for somebody. And we sat down and mapped out what it could look like both ways. And I remember even saying to you, this is going to take some work, and this is not going to turn overnight, and we have to roll up our sleeves and dig in. But if you want to dig in, it's possible. I think just even knowing that it was possible had to be huge.
And two, I trusted the process and trusted the advice, but I didn't trust myself. And thank goodness we have our coaching girls for the retreat, because I will never forget Lindsay at the retreat last year celebrating me and Casey for meeting our goal before the year was out. And really, I was like, oh yeah, I've met my goal. Woohoo. Okay, I got a whole nother month.
Yeah, because that was at the beginning of December.
Month worth of business to go. And I wasn't really celebrating it that way. When she grabbed my hand and poured me a glass of bubbly and said, come on, we're going to celebrate. I'm like, you know what? I deserve this. I totally deserve it. And yes, that is a big deal. That is a big deal, because the year before, I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a goal. I didn't know what my numbers were. I had never looked at them. The only thing that I had looked at up to that point was increasing my profit margin. And so it took, I increased I did profit first, increased my profit margin, and then implemented profit first. And so, and I think in doing all these things that were setting me up for success, I became to trust the process and trust the people that were in it, that were helping me too. And if you don't do that, you shouldn't be in business. You can't be successful. You just, and for me, that's hard. That's really hard to let go and to trust, because I want control.
But let's talk about that for a second, Jennifer, because I do think, in fairness, it is about trusting the process, but we really have to do our due diligence on the person we put in the seat. Because if we're fair about this, from 2.5 years, you've switched accountants because you weren't being supported the way you needed to be supported with that seat at the table.
At the level I wanted.
At the level that you wanted. That's right. It's not that the work was bad, but at the level that you needed to be supported at that table, that resource was no longer doing it. And so it was time to switch resources to somebody who had the capacity to serve you at the level you needed to be served, so that you could trust the process. Because if we don't have, and I say that because there are so many people that I talk to, and this sounds terrible, and I am not trying to scare anybody, but I comb through books and I am moving people. I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And there are a lot of things that we're finding that are not supporting them as business owners. And I have to say to them, you have hired me to be honest with you, and I am just going to tell you, this is questionable to me. This makes me nervous for you. I I don't understand how this is being done. And we sometimes have to switch accountants or bookkeepers simply because the methods that they're using are not supporting the company's growth and where the company needs to go and the information that the company needs in a timely manner. And so we do have to be very careful to trust the processes. We have to trust the people that are bringing us the process.
Right. And that is the key right there. In the honesty, like in your example, I mean, that's why you have a seat at the table. That's why you're there. That's your purpose. That's your goal. And if you sat by idly and didn't say anything, that's not helping anybody.
No. It's hard though, Jennifer. It is super hard. Sometimes I don't enjoy that part of, it's not that I don't enjoy it. I enjoy finding things that we can correct and fix because everybody wants that, right? I want that. I enjoy finding things in my own business that I can correct and fix, like a subscription that I did that I forgot about, that then I look at it when I'm entering my credit cards and go, oh man, I haven't even used that in 6 months. I should cancel it. I enjoy those things because it brings in more money. But it's not a joyful thing to have to say to a client who you consider, a friend at that point, I don't think you're being served by whoever's handling your finances, or I think somebody's moving money around, or I think that we need to look at this because it feels off. It really is an uncomfortable position for an accountant, a bookkeeper, a coach, whoever is having to look at those numbers and speak into that. But we have to have it. We have to have it.
Definitely.
So, all right. So you started looking at I need a business board of directors, if you will, or a board of people that are going to speak into my company that I know are going to care about my company like I care about it. So I'm on their radar, in other words, right? We want people that we're going to be on their radar. It's not that they're going to be on our radar at tax time. They're going to be on your radar through the whole year, back and forth. You also then have to develop a relationship with those people. And that's where I do think it does take time. So, as we started even together in your journey, uncovering different things as we walk through your financials, I think this is interesting to say. People always, for some reason, peg me as a profitability, and I am a profitability coach and pricing coach and financial coach. But this from your experience, and we're going to talk about how it played out. And I tell people this all the time. The deal is I just start by looking there. But I can't solve one thing on your financial documents if we don't go back and look at every choice you made that created that number. So with that thought, we have to look at the whole business. Like I can't not look at who your ideal client is. I can't not look at your branding. I can't not look at everything you're doing because everything you're doing gave us those numbers, right?
Right.
So it is like peeling the onion, the good old Shrek.
I know.
The onion, right? And so that's why I think your comment about filling the seats at the table is an organic process and it takes time. We didn't even know all that we needed until we pulled back the layers. And some of the first layers we found were we needed to make sure you had a QuickBooks coach, somebody who could speak into the QuickBooks that you were using, how to get you. I think did you move from desktop to online?
Oh yeah, a month ago.
I know, painful. And it's not the same program for anybody who's out there, but still, so you moved and you got support in that. Then we knew the next thing that you needed. Then we knew the next thing that you needed, right?
And I think too, keeping an open mind that those seats may change over time. I mean, it could just be a phase that you're in right now, a need that you have at the time that, someone filters off and another person rolls on to fill whatever need you might have at that time.
Absolutely. That's a good point. A very good point. Okay. So as you're going through this process, how have you set up your personal board?
Well, that's a process.
I mean, they all are, right?
It's a process. I mean, my life has changed within this last year. And so for me, I have just dove into the business to support the business. And I've put myself on hold, which means quit going to the gym, which is, I need an accountability partner. That's a seat that's open right now. I know I would feel better. physically and emotionally, just to have that release. So I need to find someone who's going to get my butt in the gym. So that's on my radar right now. I've started reading again, and the last book I just finished was Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. And even though her phase of life as she wrote the book is very different than mine, there were quite a few things that I took away from that. But the biggest of all was, we need a tribe. We need those people that are going to support us and lift us up, whether it's personal or in business. You need people to surround you, like your accountability friends, with working out, just to lift you up when you're feeling down. And for me, I've always been type A, strong-willed, didn't need anybody else's help, really, and didn't want to have to ask for it because I didn't know how to ask for it. And so now I'm getting to the point where I've had to ask for it. I've had to find people that can help me where I fall short. And that's super hard for me. May not be for others, but that's just one thing that I've struggled with. I could be a party of one really nicely, but I don't want to be a party of one. I want to grow. I want to be a better person professionally and personally.
I love that idea of a tribe. And as a strong Enneagram 1 myself, I mean, I remember my mother said one of the first things I used to say was, I do it myself, with the little hands on my hips and little wiggle in my behind and my head shaking, I do it myself. And I kind of grew up with that. I can take care of myself. I'll do it myself. I don't need your help. I'll do it by myself. And not that I was trying to be angry or rude to other people, but sometimes I felt like I won't let myself down, because somebody else might let me down. So if I just do it myself and I get let down, I can't beat anybody up but myself. And if I do what I know I'm going to do, because I'm an achiever and a maximizer, it's going to get done. It's going to get done well, and it's going to get done right. I'm just going to be dog tired at the end of it.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's why we've become such good friends, because we share the same, too many personality traits. But, for one, part of this journey in this process, I've had to be more open. I've had to be more accepting of, things maybe not going my way, falling on my face a couple of times recently, and dusting myself off and get back up and get going again. But I have those people in place to keep me from making, hopefully, some of those same mistakes, but also help me grow along the way, or point out, hey, you had this success, you grew, you did this, and celebrate it. Otherwise, I'm on to the next thing. Woohoo, great, done. Where am I going next?
Yeah, and one thing I want to say, and you've heard me talk about this, we've done it together, we've talked about it, is the Gallup Strengths Finder. Mm-hmm. And I probably found a way to talk about it in most of my podcasts because I think it's that big of a deal. But I will tell you, it's helped me fill seats at my table. Because when I did just my top 5, it just kept reinforcing for me what I was great at, which was do it all, which was what I was already doing. But when I did the full 34, Jennifer, and I saw my bottom 5, which are my strength or my weaknesses, I knew that for my business to grow, I had to feel the weakness. So I either had to hire for it, I need to have an advisor, I need to have an accountability, but I needed to do something about my bottom 5. That has been what I've done this year. The whole year of 2019 has been to work on my bottom 5, not to make them my top. They're never going to be my top. They're not how I'm made. But as the owner of my company, they're my blind spots. And if I ignore them, then I don't have my iron sharpened. And so what I did was I immediately went to my coach and I said, here are my bottom 5. I admit every one of these are places where I'm struggling or that I do struggle. And therefore, this is what we need to do. So then I took them and wrote affirmations for them. And I hired 2 new people this year to work with me to help me in those areas to do things I could not do or that I didn't see. And I also went through a time back in 2012 before I started this business where I had to ask for help. And if you are a type 1 person, 1 Enneagram, if you are I'll do it myself man or woman, that is very humbling. I like to be the helper, not the helpee. And I truly believe in my life, God used it as a humbling experience for me because I couldn't do it myself. I physically could not do it myself. I was super sick. I had to have help. And he's used that to grow me more into the woman that I'm trying to become. And then to kind of open my mind to let people help me the way I want to help people, because we're all meant to work in this world and this life together. I mean, we all have to depend. What is that? No man is an island unto himself. And there's another great Bible verse that talks about 3 cords. It can't be broken. A strand of 3 is stronger than 1. When one falls down, a friend helps him up. I mean, it's the whole thing that the more we pull together, the stronger that we are. And that's been kind of what I have been on the journey of this year, is to not be alone, and to figure out, where do I need help? Where am I falling down repeatedly? And I know that I'm skinning my knee every time. All right, somebody else either can go do that job for me, or they need to come put knee pads on me, because this can't continue. Right. But asking them to do that and then sitting back and really, I think this is the hard part. I think now it's not the ask. Now it's sitting back and receiving what they have to say to me when it might not be the way I would do it. Oh, that's like stomping all over your toes there, right? It does mine. Especially when we have an idea. I mean, I've got an idea of about anything. And if you give me an idea, I can probably rework it in about 3 or 4 seconds. And so when somebody else reworks it differently from me, but I've given them a seat at the table, it's then being quiet and shutting my own thoughts and opinions long enough to hear their share. And that's been a learning experience for me.
Definitely. Well, I know what our next coaching conversation is going to be. My bottom 5. I'm going to have to pull that up.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I tell, if you're the owner of the company, I prefer you do the full 34. And if anybody wants to go back and listen to the recording with Darren Versami when he was on with 34 Strong, we talked just about that and about how we have to shore up those bottom 5. We have to focus on the top 5. We have to be aware of and shore up the bottom 5. And, it was funny. I was on Syl's podcast. This was probably 2 years ago, right after she started. She asked me what my biggest weakness was. Now, I had not done my full 34. And so I hadn't done it. I'd only done my top 5, but I knew where my personal biggest struggle was. And I said to her, Syl, my biggest struggle is spontaneity. So I like a plan. I'm organized. I've got a lot of stuff to do. And the only way that I can do it all is with my plan. So if we show up and the plan gets thrown all up into the air, I feel out of it a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, we were supposed to do this at 10 o'clock. It's 10:15. You need to get on with it, or we're going to now be, later than we need to be. I said, so my family would probably tell you that I'm not super adaptable to things like that. I can be spontaneous if I plan to be. So if I say, tomorrow, I'm just going to be spontaneous, I wake up and I think spontaneity. I have to think it to do it. So I have to be aware of it. Fast forward 2 years, I opened up my full 34 after a conference last year. My bottom 1 was adaptability. And it said, has problems being spontaneous. And I was like, see, I knew myself the whole time. And so I have invited people in that help me choose to do things as spontaneous as I can to challenge myself a little bit there.
Like just the podcast today, I'll be honest, like I would have liked to have had a list of questions, kind of a little outline of topics. I mean, I know I kind of drafted kind of my story per se, but we're winging it here. And so for me, that's like you, that's super hard.
Right.
And I can go to dinner last minute and make a plan and meet a friend for a drink last minute. Hey, what you doing? Whatever. Yeah, I can do that. But in business, or if I'm at a meeting and you were supposed to be there, I hate being late. If they're running late and we've only got a set amount of time, stress city.
I know. And I think that's one of the reasons that even if I write a couple of questions to the people that I'm interviewing, I never follow it directly, because it's the spontaneity of speech and of conversation that sometimes reveals the nuggets that if it was just very written out black and white, we would answer black and white. And then we kind of miss the vulnerability side of the conversation, which sometimes it's that underbelly, that we work so doggone hard to protect, that then shows up and provides, just a beautiful exploration of a topic. And so I just appreciate you being willing to say, look, my business was accidentally doing okay, and it really needed to do intentionally great. And there's nothing wrong with being accidentally okay, because you were profitable, you were making money. You just weren't making it at the rate that you should or could have made for the amount of sales that you had. And so it's taken some time to tweak it. We went through the pricing without emotion, upped rates, cleaned some things up, moved into profit first, cleaned some things up. And now you've got this board of people that you are starting to fill that are going to support you on the personal side and on the professional side. And I think part of what this also does is what we've talked about and maybe moved around a little bit, is that relinquishing of control. And it still doesn't mean, Jennifer, that you don't own the company, but it means that you are inviting other people in to help own some of the decision making.
Well, not only own it, but guide it and hold my feet to the fire. Tell me when I'm about to make a bad mistake. I mean, now I know who to call and ask for help. And sadly, I wouldn't have done that before. I would have just said, here's my decision, and trudged on and lived with the repercussions of whatever that decision might have brought to me. I'm trying to be intentional in how I do my business and the outcomes. And you can't do that by yourself. You just can't.
I agree. So tell me this, what are your, let me ask it this way. Has your definition of profitability changed from 2.5 years ago to today?
It has, and defining that is probably going to be difficult. Two things have come out of that. One, I know where to look and how to look at the numbers to know where I am profitable and where I am not. Thank you to you for, that. And then adjusting my business model. Do I need to drop something that I'm offering that's not as profitable? Do I need to spend time somewhere else in my business as far as that's concerned? I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't have those glasses to be able to look and dive a little bit deeper. You don't know what you don't know. And I did not know. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a numbers person. And for me, just the thought of reconciling my accounts, I would break out in hives. It's just not something that I enjoy. But now I have a passion for that. I know what to look for. I can make adjustments on my own with your help. I mean, I would never do it without someone else to bounce an idea off of. But I guess knowledge is power as far as knowing about my profitability. I didn't have that knowledge. I do now. I have the power to make changes and alter my course of how I get to where I'm going. And I've grown along the way. And my business has grown. I mean, if nothing else, I am seeing the results through my business, through my numbers.
Yeah, because I remember when we were at the end of 2017, when we started setting your goals for 18, I remember you looking at me and going, I don't know about that. And I said, yeah, you can do that. I know you can do that. Come on, you can do that. Here's how we're going to do that. And then you did it, right? And you did it early, right? You blew past your sales goals in November. And I think to some degree, you were shocked. I remember when you realized it was that summer and you're like, I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to hit it early. And I'm like, yeah, you are. So I think you did have a tiny celebration. You just had it early when you recognized it was going to happen.
Right.
And congrats to Lindsay for making you have a bigger celebration among trusted friends. Because it's not something that you run out and tell everybody, hey, I met all my profit goals for the year, my income goals for the year, my salary goals for the year. We don't run out and tell that. And so in some ways, it's almost like we're like quietly celebrating those things. And, that was kind of fun. But then we increased it again for 19.
Yep.
And I remember you going, oh, I don't know about that. I'm like, come on, you can do that. And I wasn't saying it just because I was just blowing smoke. I mean, we had a plan in place and you were working the plan. You are working the plan. And here we are in 19 and we're, right past the halfway mark and you're already, 80,000 ahead of goal? I mean, come on.
I have about 80,000 left for the year to reach my goal.
That's just killer. That's just killer.
But I've had those people in place to help me get there.
That's right. That's right. This is with shifting up a business model, not hugely, but being very intentional, like you said, about what you sell, how you sell it, and what you sell it for. And then having a support system around you in this board that's sharpening your processes and procedures and systems and your own mindset all along the way.
And I know at the end of the year, when it comes tax time, I'm not going to be killed in the process.
Right, because we've already been either making the tax payments and we have them sitting in an account waiting.
Right.
Talk to me just a minute about Profit First and how it has impacted your business.
Well,
because I think we started it, in 18? We start looking at it in 18. We had to get your books all organized. We started more heavily later 18 and into 19 after we got you over to online, right?
Well, I think I spent half of the year of 17 getting my books together and then knew that I would have good reporting for 18. And that's when I implemented Profit First. I also became an LLC during that time,
right?
And went through the pains of that, but that was well worth it. And you kept saying you need to be an S corp. You need to be an S corp. I'm like, I don't know what an S corp is. You mean I got to do payroll and all that sorts of stuff? Well, guess what?
Well, I told you, I said you're paying too much taxes. If you don't, we got to get you over there. But that's what you're doing this year.
Well, you know what? 2018 was you should have listened to Michelle.
Those goals actually was great, but there is a consequence when you make money, and that is that you have to pay taxes on it.
Yep. So guess what? Earlier this year, I became an S corp.
Yay!
And so that's part of the process. I've had to trust the process and I've had to learn along the way. I mean, I'm like, when my first accountant asked me, what do you want to pay yourself? I'm like, you need to tell me that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that was my first red flag. I mean, I had sat down and had the conversation with him and said, I need you to be a business partner. I need you to be invested in my business as much as I am. And I look to you for guidance. And when I got the, what do you want to pay yourself question, I was like, this isn't going to work.
Like, if neither of us know, then it's not going to solve the problem. And that is one of the beautiful things about implementing Profit First, is it can start to give you an idea of what we can pay you. And then when you move into an S corp, we have a conversation with the accountant, how much is coming through payroll and how much is coming through distribution, and what does this look like, right?
Exactly.
Because it can be different for each person. So Profit First can come up, just with an overall strategy of your pay is X percent of real revenue, but then how that pay is actually paid to you can be a different conversation. And so having those people in place to help you do that has been cool. That's cool. And you know what I love? I love it when, like, as much as taxes, they get us all, right? I don't know that there's anybody who just goes, oh, please let me pay all my taxes. But we do, they are a necessity, and we do reap the benefit of some of our tax dollars at work, no doubt, schools, roads, all that good stuff. But having it set aside and pulled out before we touch it and we see it is instrumental. I mean, that is why in corporate America, they take your taxes out before they give you your paycheck. And when we run our own company, if we don't have that happening, that's why we get upside down on it, because we're looking at all that as spendable cash, and it's not spendable cash. And so being able to separate it out and then make those payments so that end of the year you can breathe and not get hit with another $20,000 or $30,000 tax bill is amazing.
It's huge. I mean, there is a peace of mind there knowing that that money, I've done my estimated tax payments and I still have money for whatever I might need. And two, the next big celebration in the Profit First is each quarter you get to distribute the reserves, and how do you spend that? Oh, let's see. Is it a shopping spree? Is it a trip? Is it a college tuition payment? Is it a new car? Do you take that and reinvest it in your business? What do you do with it? That's the fun part. Like at the end of the day, the end of the quarter, you've got some wiggle room. And I don't know, I've got many designer friends that they're paying their employees, but they're not paying themselves. And I don't want to be one. I don't want to do that. And thankfully, I've, with your help, been set up for success in that way. Now, there's been some lean months where I haven't had as much profit to distribute as in other months. And, you're like, okay, but I've gone back to look at those months to see why, was I on vacation that month? Or, I now have the tools in my toolbox to go back and evaluate why those changes and those fluctuations have happened. And I'm able to be more strategic. I think one of the things that we focused on this last year was, my advertising dollars were low. And you said you could spend up to, whatever that percentage was. She goes, how are you going to spend that? And I said, well, I don't know. So I went back over the last couple of years since I had good numbers and said, oh, that's funny. The odd months, like January, March, June, and September, or not the quarter, the January and then the quarter months were my lowest months in sales. All the other months were pretty much even from year to year. And it was like, okay, well, strategically, I could invest those advertising dollars to hit those months. So it's allowed me to, to be more strategic in my method and more intentional, I think is the right word.
Right. And I love it because, again, when we're thinking about the board, you've created the board to help you with the finances. And then that allows you to now put a little bit more of your effort and energy towards the marketing advertising. And then once we have that kind of wrapped up, we might have effort and energy to put towards another thing, because we can't do all of it all the time at the same time.
Right.
Right.
And I think too, I built a really good team. Like I have an amazing workroom. I'm only as good as the team I've surrounded myself with, my installers. I have an assistant that works with me. She's amazing. I have put myself in a position to put people that are going to support me to the level that I want to be supported, but also are going to portray my business in the same light that I would like for it to be.
Right. Which means they have to portray their own business that way.
Or not, and then I'll move on.
Right. But I mean, if they're going to stay on your team, then, the workroom that's doing this excellent work, she's portraying her business so well, you want to be a part of that. And you want her on your team.
And I want those people to be a part of the family. I mean, I've had the same installers in the same workroom for years. They're a part of my family.
I always loved being a part of the family. I did. When I was doing workroom and I had moved away from retail and the design piece and was doing to the trade, I loved my designers. I loved them. If I didn't love them and we couldn't work together, it was short-lived. Remember that whole type 1 kind of thing I got going? But if they really cared about their work and, their clients weren't price shoppers, they were quality, then, oh my gosh, I loved it. It was just the best. And we actually could build really great things together. I remember when I was shutting my workroom, I went to one of my main designers and just said to her, hey, I'm going to be shutting the workroom. And we both went to lunch and kind of shed a few tears and talked about it. And I remember her saying to me, you are excellent as a workroom, and I would give your name to anybody, but I think you're going to be even more excellent as a business coach. And I don't want you to hold that back. And so she said, the only thing she said to me was, but I need you to hand me off to another workroom who can love on me, support and take care of me the way you have. And I held her and like handed her off to another workroom and said, she's like my primo and I need you to help take care of her. And she's like, I'll welcome her into the family. So it was one of those kinds of conversations that, you know, we were excited for each other and how our businesses were changing and developing. But I came off of her table, actually. I had to step away from her table to be able to go do my own. And sometimes that's hard.
That is hard. It's a phase of life.
So Jennifer, what's one of the next big profit goals in your business? What are you looking to do next? How are you gonna blow all this up again? Or is a profit goal just to fine tune a process that you already have?
That's where I am right now. Once I get my website and my social media sending the same message, I'm working on my process. Like, what is it that is going to allow me to spend less time doing the same thing? Going to QuickBooks Online, as painful as it has been, and I'm still in the middle of that learning curve, just a month out. In the end, I think it's going to work because it's working together with another program that I'm using. And so now I should have been an engineer, really. I want to increase my productivity through my processes. And I think that's where I am at this point in my business, is what can I do to make me spend less time doing it and not duplicate those same efforts over and over again? Am I typing in that same information more than once? How can I streamline that process? And that's where I am right now.
That's interesting. I'm doing a lot of the same myself, looking at how can I automate it? How can I have this speak to this? One of my favorite apps in the world right now is Zapier. Zapier, because it's connecting all kinds of things in the background for me that don't normally talk to each other. And my project manager, man, she is awesome at connecting all of these, making things connect that I didn't even know could connect. So that's always something great to look at. And we just let it zap here and zap there, and the information gets moved for me and I don't have to move it. So it's always something to check out if you're looking to do that.
Well, and it's frustrating because I feel like you can take a couple steps forward, but there's a few steps back. And at this point, I have to let my impatience go and just trust the process. And obviously that's not my strong suit, but I am willing to.
Hey, but you're working that muscle. We've talked about it for almost an hour now. So that muscle's being worked.
It's being worked. I'm working. I'm going to go back. I'm going to pull out my bottom 5 because I can pretty much, I don't remember exactly what they are, but I think we probably have hit on all 5 of them during this discussion.
Right. So you may not be physically in the gym, but you're trusting the process and letting go. You've been working those muscles hard, and we need to celebrate that. That's right.
Okay.
Jennifer, thank you so much for being with me today. Do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find you. What is your website?
It's JLS Designs, plural, TN. So it's J is in Jennifer, L is in Lee, S is in Smith, Designs, plural, and short for Tennessee. So JLSDesignsTN.com.
Perfect. And I will put that and all your social media links in our show notes so everybody can follow along and watch your evolution. And again, congratulations on being on the board for WCAA and offering that same level of input for the window coverings industry. I know that they will very much value what you bring to that table. And thank you for just challenging us to think about who's at our table and who's supporting us and who's strengthening us and, giving us maybe sometimes the hard truths that lead us into a place where we can be better than we were before. So I really appreciate your vulnerability and having the conversation.
Well, thanks for having me. It truly is an honor for me.
I'll talk to you soon. Bring those bottom 5 to our next meeting.
You got it.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, Jennifer, for being so honest and transparent on the podcast today. It is true. We all need help and assistance and cannot do this life or business alone. And really, who wants to? And so it's for this reason that I created the Designer's Inner Circle. It's a place where those in the design industry allow me a seat at their table. And they have a tribe. We've created one. And there's nothing better than doing life and business together. If you'd like more information on the Designer's Inner Circle, head over to scarletthreadconsulting.com. And always remember, profit doesn't happen by accident.